we could unmute you. But if you could limit your comments to two minutes each and to items on the agenda. You could either raise your hand through Zoom, or we'll scroll through the tiles and see if there are any hands up through the screens.
Perhaps we should have all attendees have the tiles indicate their names. I saw one that said, "I want apple pie."
Yeah. Thank you. Don't see any raised hands. Board members, if you see any, let me know.
I just looked, I didn't see any.
Okay. Hearing none, moving on to item 4, board member comments.
Only that everyone in the meeting should be identified by their name, not "I want apple pie."
Could that person identify themselves? I moved them back out into the waiting room.
Say that again, Todd.
Sorry, I moved that person out since they didn't
Okay.
change their name. I put them in the waiting room.
Okay.
If somebody knows who that is, or if they come back in, let them in.
Any other board member comment? Hearing none and not seeing any hands raised, move on to committee reports. Mike? Facilities and fields.
Thank you.
Yes,
Yes.
sir.
So I will report on facilities and fields and the building committee. So we did have a building committee meeting and a facilities and fields committee meeting prior to the our regular meeting here. Just to give a brief report on the JBHS gym, cafeteria, HVAC and safety improvement project. We are progressing in good order. We're confident that we will have, well, first I'll report that the new chillers are online as of today. So the cooling for the main part of the building, any area that had cooling, has cooling again. So happy to report that 2 new chillers are in, they're installed, they're piped, they've been tested, and they're up and running. Secondly, the improvements that we're doing to the indoor air quality for the gymnasium and the cafeteria, those units will be rigged to the roof on Monday and Thursday of this coming week. And we hope to have them up and running prior to next Thursday, in advance of our completion date of the 27th, which will be the Friday. So we're optimistic that all the peripheral issues, school-related issues, will be completed in advance of those units running, which should give the staff ample time to be able to clean and prepare the areas so that we're ready for the start of school. So again, happy to report that we seem to be, we made up some time. We were, as I noted at the last meeting, we were waiting for equipment, which is an issue that many school districts still continue to face, but we have, we've made great progress over the last couple of weeks, and we are very confident that school will open. Well, school will open anyway, but school will open with no hiccups, with no building issues relating to the project. And I think the enhancement of the indoor air quality and the benefits on the learning environment will be substantial and quite noticeable. So happy to report that.
Any questions?
I'd just like to say thanks to Mike. That was probably a lot of additional work on top of what we've already all got on our plates. So that must have been a lot of oversight on your part. So thank you very much for taking care of that.
Thank you. The committee, we're a committee and we work as a whole, and it's been the whole group. So I appreciate that. But thank you.
Well, we're a committee, but you're the one who's there at 7 in the morning and 5 o'clock at night. So
Thank you.
And you know about chillers. I do not.
I will add thanks to the team, the Barlow team as well, and working with Mike and the facilities committee and what happens behind the scenes. And I will say that the few times I've been into Barlow with the temporary air conditioning has worked really well. So thank you all for whoever participated. Any other committee reports? I have none for audit other than it's ongoing. Budget did not convene, and curriculum we're reconvening in the fall.
Policy has been convening episodically, and we are continuing our progress. There is nothing remarkable to report.
Moving on to discussion and possible action. I will point out to the board that authorized item number A, authorized signature change form, as well as item number C, change to authorized signer, are indeed the same item. So rather than move around items, I would just propose to move on to item number B, which is an update on JBHS school reopening plan.
Yeah, let me start that for you. Good evening, everybody. I'm glad to see you again, and it's good to know that our building improvement projects are coming along. So thanks to Mike for keeping that moving and overseeing it. The reopening plan. If we're talking about students who are upperclassmen who have been here with us back in the fall, then they will find the return to school very familiar. The students who are rising freshmen or haven't been in the building already, the administrators do have plans to orient the new students, including the upperclassmen who've moved to town over the summer. So they'll be both meeting with them and providing them with orientation on how to get around the building. The fall will feel similar to last spring. The academic schedule will be an A-B day, or as we call it, a black day followed by a gold day, which the first 4 periods of the day will meet on one day, and then the following day you'll get the periods 5 through 8. The benefit there of the larger classes also means there's less time moving around the buildings. They're working on how do we feed the kids in a reasonable amount of time, and the administrators have planned 4 lunch waves. The students will be able to eat in the main cafeteria, which we are very pleased to know will have air conditioning, and also we'll be using the upper gym as an overflow area. There's enough seating for us to have kids seated at a reasonable distance from each other and still be able to eat and speak and socialize. That's one of the reasons we've spread out the tables. Passage around the school will be facilitated as normal by teachers in the hallways and students. Once I think a few days have gone by and they work out their passing routines, it should feel pretty normal. As you all know, the governor's executive orders and the directions from Hartford, the Connecticut State Department of Education working with the Department of Public Health, right up through September 30th, we're all required, those of us in the buildings, adults and students, to wear masks. What's going to happen on or after the 30th September is not yet defined, but we certainly this first several weeks will be observing the requirements of the law and the executive orders for us all to wear masks and to maintain reasonable distance. In the classroom, the distance has been reduced by the state from 6 feet to 3 feet to accommodate students being able to be in their classes. We know that our counselors are working to resolve class size to the greatest degree available and to ensure that every student has a schedule ready by the time we open up. So the message I'd like to send tonight is, if you were here with us in May and June, it should feel pretty familiar, and it's continuity. We call it the reopening plan, but really it's the return to school, the opening plan, the same sorts of things that we do at the beginning of any year to help our new students and our underclassmen become familiar with the building, learn how to pass from period to period, and to focus on their academics. I don't know if Dr. Pearson-Ugal wanted to add anything to that update. The administration will be communicating with parents in a couple of ways, certainly by releasing emails over the next couple of weeks and providing information to families about all the various ways that we get a school year started. Dr. Pearson, you?
I think I would just add, I think you've covered all of the highlights that, as Dr. McMorran just shared, the building administrators will be sharing a written plan with families so that it's very clear exactly what plan will be followed at Barlow. We will still be asking parents to do daily health screenings at home before students head off to school, and just looking forward to good cooperation between home and school to make this year as healthy and as much refocused on academics and learning as possible. We're working with our teachers associations to update the full opening plan, which will then be posted on the website, replacing the state template that's there right now.
And I think that's about all we have to say about the update. Our assistant principals are certainly working hard to coordinate all of that work with our staff and support staff.
Can I just ask a quick question? Is that appropriate?
Sure.
So I know that some of the guidelines have changed for when people are vaccinated, that they don't need to quarantine. They just need to make sure that there's a negative COVID test if they've been in contact with somebody who has COVID. Is that correct within the school setting?
That is correct. So I'll just take the moment to say again that the recommendation from the Connecticut Department of Public Health is the best thing for students 12 and over is for them to get vaccinated. What they've told us is if a student has been vaccinated and is exposed to another student who is who's diagnosed with COVID-19 and has spent cumulatively fewer than 15 minutes in the presence of that other child, if the student has been exposed, does not show any symptoms, then they're not required to quarantine. That's the guidance we have from Hartford right now. Gwen, did you have a comment also?
Yes. I just want the block day schedules have not been totally popular with all students. And I just want to clarify that's completely dependent on the lunch issue. We can't really resolve that until we can get everybody back in the cafeteria and back down to 3 lunch waves. Am I interpreting that correctly?
That certainly is a factor in the design. We want to make sure that we're giving the kids opportunities to get a decent meal and some time to relax. And the schedule as we have it now has the kids coming in 4 waves, so that it does have an impact on the 4-period 2-day scheduling. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Can I just ask a question about how many new students, are coming in from outside of, not freshmen, but other than that?
Yeah. Hi, Karen. Good to see you again. There's a somewhat in excess of 20 students, I believe. I heard from the assistant principals. It may be a bit more than that, but students who have moved in because of purchases of homes and people relocating to Easton and Reading. I'm sorry, I don't know the actual number.
No, I was just approximate. That's all. Thank you.
Todd?
2 questions. First one, can you talk about athletics, extracurricular activities, and what the plan is if those are going to go according to schedule or any guidance from the athletic conference? Is the first one. So athletics and extracurriculars.
Yeah, thanks. Actually, the governor was in New Bristol today with the director of the CIAC and some other state officials. The plan is to return fully to athletics. And then the issue is, are athletics indoors or outdoors? Those that are outdoors, there are some mitigation strategies that will allow all of the athletic programs to operate. It may be that, for instance, when a contact team is on the sidelines, we ask them to put their mask back on. And other places, when they're outside, they will not be required to wear their masks, for instance, cross-country track. When teams are indoors, they will have to continue to observe more strict regulations, say the volleyball teams and the other teams that are practicing indoors. But the plan from CIAC is a full fall season of athletics. I'm really pleased to hear that. With extracurricular, again, it's a matter of, are they meeting indoors or outdoors? When we're outdoors and kids have suitable distance from each other, they'll be able to unmask. Indoors, we'll continue to observe the regulations and expectations that we're getting from Harvard. I actually don't know the answer to the question, when will the clubs convene? I'm sorry, I didn't think to ask that. Dr. Pearson-Ugal, do you happen to know something about that?
I would say, generally speaking, we hope to resume the more typical activities, and there's no reason why we wouldn't do so. We're trying to avoid situations where there might be very large groups congregating inside, masked, of course. But I think that we should be able to run most of the after-school activities and extracurriculars.
Yeah. Another thing that I'm not clear on, I'll have to find out from the folks at the high school, is how we'll do the musical program, the woodwinds, and I believe that the approach is to have them conduct the rehearsals in the auditorium where there's more space for the students to spread out.
Yes, the mitigation strategies that were in effect last year will largely be the same with respect to music, to both in terms of wood instruments and singing.
Is there any requirement as far as vaccination to participate in sports?
And the recommendation is that all student athletes above the age of 12 get vaccinated. I don't believe there's a restriction prohibiting the students who have not yet been vaccinated from participating. They just have to follow all of the mitigation strategies. Michael?
So I know you mentioned the music program. So I'd like to make a gratuitous plug for the fall musical, Return of the Fall Musical, under the direction of Matt Farina. And after much anticipation and clues that went on for many months through the summer, it was announced that we're doing Beauty and the Beast. So I would encourage all the students who have any interest in the dramatic arts whatsoever to consider coming out for our fall musical. And I look forward to reinvigorating that program and bringing that back, because we've been away from, you know, these types of activities for so long, and it is really something that defines us at Barlow. So please
Yeah,
consider auditioning.
thanks for putting that plug in. That's very personal, but my now 25-year-old nephew, who's a lieutenant in the United States Marine Corps, began his dramatic portrayals as the Beast in Beauty and the Beast a couple of years back. So yeah, we're looking forward to that, and ensuring that we're taking all reasonable precautions, but still getting a musical underway. Thanks for bringing it up. Todd?
Sorry, you may have addressed that. Let's see though, the remote students, we are not having that this year, just so to be clear for the parents.
Yes, at the present time, now remember that as conditions change, the strategies can change. But at the present moment, what the state has directed us as the local district is that days, if the district were to go into a remote learning arrangement without something changing at Hartford, that none of those days would count towards the 180 days. And the students who are, if we have students who have to go into quarantine, then they would get assignments and they would get input, but they wouldn't be getting direct instruction. So again, we're encouraging families who can to consider having their students above the age of 12 vaccinated, because we wouldn't necessarily have to quarantine a child if that person's vaccinated and certain conditions are met for the duration of a potential exposure. So, but the plan from the State Department of Education, State Department of Public Health is 100% return to in-person learning.
But just to dovetail a little bit on what Todd is asking, we feel confident that we could change to a different modality fairly quickly. We have everything still in place, that were a sudden change to be made on the statewide level, we can transition fairly quickly and still be able to meet the needs of our students.
I'm going to say yes to that. The mode of delivery, if the conditions changed in the state and the region, so this is not us changing things, but the conditions in Connecticut. If the State Department of Education, the governor, were to authorize us to go to remote learning, then we do believe that we have the hardware, the programming. In some cases, for some families, it's a small number, but we would be able to provide them with hotspots or ways to access the internet, and we could make that move fairly smoothly, should the conditions arise.
Right.
Just going back quickly to the instance where a child has to quarantine, and then that they would be provided materials. Does that at-home learning, if you will, count as that fulfillment of the child's minimum requirement?
Yeah, in that situation, if a child has to quarantine individually, then yes, those days count towards that child's academic progress. Yeah, and there may be certain situations where a child with special needs, a child with unique medical needs, would be under a homebound plan, and we would have we have the same kinds of plans for students as we have in many previous years. When a kid is incapable of coming to school for some reason, they still get instruction.
I have another question. As I didn't hear any request for the board to providing the additional funds for any PPE, other supplies for reopening. So, is there anything at this point that you're aware of that the board might need to?
Thank you for the question. Our director of finance tells me that we have sufficient PPE, personal protective equipment, supplies, masks, and so forth for the opening at this time. Yeah, and we think we have sufficient technology to support our Google Classroom. All of our teachers now will have a Google Classroom presence for their to complement their in-class instruction. So I don't believe we need any additional funding at this point to get us underway.
Any other questions or comments from the board or the administration?
Just to reiterate that the administrators will be communicating with the students and their families over the next couple of weeks, certainly providing a lot of information before we get back into the school year.
I actually just have one more quick question. I was just wondering about the buses. Do we feel it's necessary to continue with the nightly cleaning of the buses, or is that?
No, the expectation is not that the buses will have a complete wipe down every day, but that there will be the usual cleanliness maintenance. As you know, the drivers have to sweep out the buses every day and address any particular cleaning issues, and they are required to stop and check and make sure nobody's fallen asleep in the back seat as they finish their run. But the direction to us is to continue to have the students spread out on the buses. The buses are considered to be public transportation. And so this is under federal requirements that public transportation have mitigation strategies, including distancing. And then the question, as I see it, is getting the windows open to get some air circulating. In the fall, obviously, when the temperatures aren't so bad, that should be easy to accomplish. And we'll have to seek guidance from them when we get into the winter months.
The buses will run at up to 100% capacity. The students will be assigned seats. There will be no additional or unusual cleaning. And with the windows open, the ventilation will certainly be improved.
And the expectation is that all students getting on the bus have their masks on. That's under federal guidelines. And of course, parents can continue to drive their own children with their own vehicles. As long as we all understand that there's only so many square feet of driveway and passage, and we'll all have to be good neighbors about how we go about doing that.
Okay, so sorry. Every answer begs another question. So
I know that's
and I apologize, but I'm just
right.
I want to be clear for our parents and for our students. Last year, I think there were adjustments made to the student parking fees relating to the fact that we were encouraging students to drive. So I think it would be helpful if we clearly articulate what our plan is for this year. Or is at this point, are we feeling that we're going to go back to regular parking fees or traditional parking fees, or is there going to be some sort of an adjustment that's suggested relating to that? Just it might be helpful for families to plan how they're going to do that.
Yeah, I thanks for raising the question. I don't know the answer to that, but we'll make note of it and make sure that we address that in our communications to the families. We do feel that it's okay to use the buses if that is what works for families.
Right.
Yeah.
Great. I think seeing no other hands or comments or what I'll propose to move on to the next agenda item, which is item number C. change to the authorized signer of ED 099 agreement for the child nutrition program. So just a little bit of background, and Todd and Tom and Stephanie, please jump in here. My understanding is that, we need to authorize the superintendent to sign on behalf of Region 9. So this is just to provide for the board to provide authorization for Dr. McMorrin to be able to sign for our district.
Yeah, if I could actually give you a motion to one of you to move, you move that the Region 9 Board of Education approve a change to the authorized signer of the ED 099 agreement for child nutrition program to Dr. Thomas McMorrin, interim superintendent, effective immediately.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Maureen and Mike.
Sorry, Gwen.
Oh, sorry,
I'll
Glenn.
pipe down now, Gwen.
I'm sorry.
Okay, official roll call. Todd,
Yes. Trying to get off mute.
Cheryl, yes. Mike,
Yes.
Gwen,
Yes.
Sarah,
Abstain.
Karen,
Sorry, yes.
Mary Lee,
Yes,
Maureen.
Yes.
Okay, unanimous, so moved.
It's a great honor for me, and I'll do my best to execute that duty properly.
So before we move off this topic, something that's somewhat related that I had a discussion and I kind of learned more about as a board member. I wonder whether everyone is aware that school lunches and breakfast this year are going to be funded by the federal government. And so I think it's important that families are aware of the fact that, they can be, they can benefit from hot lunches and breakfasts, and they should, in my opinion, strongly consider taking advantage of this opportunity to get, a good nutritious meal. And the more meals I believe that we serve, the better it is for the district. And I also think it's great for the students to be able to, have the opportunity to get these meals. And so, I wonder, I see Dave Kennedy is on, maybe he can speak to it, but I just thought that it was important that we note this, because I don't know how many families are aware and how many may be unaware that, this opportunity is available to our students.
Especially if you have teenage boys.
We'll undertake to make sure that we include information about this in our communications with the parents and the families.
That's great. Thank you.
Thanks for bringing it up.
Thank you. Okay, moving on, item D, finalize fiscal year 2020-2021 unexpended funds. Typo in the agenda, apologies. I think I'll defer to Dr. McMorrin for further, but the audit is still ongoing. So with respect to identifying the exact number by which what the unexpended funds are for the end of the fiscal year just ended, that's still ongoing, but the central office is operating under the instruction that the board previously provided, I think, during the June meeting with respect to those where to allocate funds.
Yes, I exchanged emails with our interim director of finance today. Back in June, the board directed the district to disperse some funds into the health account and into the capital fund, which is completely appropriate and something we've done over time. And then the balance of the funds would go back to the two towns. The closing out of the books generally takes the course of the summer and often a little bit more. And I'm now coming off of my experience, not what he said, but generally we have to be prepared to close the books and be ready for the regular yearly audit, which takes place generally sometime late October. So Clarence Zachary tells me we're on time to do those things, and he didn't have anything else to add to it. So we're following the motions from back in June. I wish there were unexpected funds, but there aren't.
Mike, you had your hand up.
Yeah, so I don't know if this is the appropriate timing for this, or maybe Todd can take note to put this on a future agenda. But again, something that was raised during the building committee and facilities meetings were the new lighting for the gymnasiums that was installed. And again, it was not included as part of the capital project. So I think it's important that we articulate how it was funded, so that there's clarity for the public moving forward. So again, I don't know if this is the proper venue or timing rather, or whether that's something for down the line, but it's certainly something we should have a discussion about.
Yeah, if we could make that part of our reporting to you in September, we'd have, we'll get the information that you want.
For September.
Todd, were you going to say something? Oh,
Sorry, no, I noted what we'll put it in for September and to the facilities committee to start the discussion.
any other comments or questions with respect to item D? Okay. Moving on to item E, update on personnel search for JBHS, excuse me, head of school. So I'll essentially just reiterate, and Todd, as chair of the PSC, please feel free to comment here. I'll reiterate for purposes of the public that there was a communication with respect to the progress of the head of school search, and which is consistent with how our last head of school was engaged to join the district. So just a recap for those of the public who may not have read it or may not have read all the other communications. So an email was sent out on August 10th. The announcement indicated that the Region 9 Board of Ed closed the application process last Friday on August 13th. And we're working with Dr. Joe Arardi as engaged by the Region 9 Board of Ed. We'll be screening all applicants, conducting first, second round interviews during the next 2 weeks. And we'll look to appoint the new head of school on or before Monday, August 30th. And if anyone has any questions, they're free to reach out to Dr. Arardi. And just for a background, the board did decide in the last meeting to continue the search. That was the process that was opened up earlier in the year. And Todd, I don't feel free to add something.
Thank you. That's a great update. Just to add to it, just for clarity for the public, the personnel search committee for the head of school is made up of all the Region 9 board members. And as of the close of the application submission last week, we received nearly 30 applicants for the position. And the PSC will be meeting later this week to review through those applications and down select to do interviews and do the interviews starting next week to meet the schedule that Cheryl just went through. So, if you had anything else you wanted to add?
Gosh, I can I just add? I'm sorry. My dog is barking. I'm alone here. I had the great honor to be your head of school from 2007-8 through 2014-15. It is the single best job as an educator in the state of Connecticut. I know I'm biased in that, but I can't now quite remember why I decided to give that job up and become superintendent. But we've had a lot of interest. Dr. Arardi's done a really good job getting you a nice slate of candidates. And I've read all of the applications, and I think you're going to find there are about 8 very strong candidates. We've recommended you move forward and consider 5, and then think about a couple of the others, bringing them in. But I'm really pleased with the work that Dr. O'Reilly has done to get you some good candidates. And I think your timeline is a little aggressive, but I think you can do it.
Plug for Dr. Arardi. He does a fantastic job.
Yep.
Mike?
And so again, I just want to note for the public, because I did hear a comment from a couple of parents that the process that we're using, we extended it. But it's a continuation of the process that we had started months ago. Searching for the head of school. And so I've heard that, well, parents haven't been included, and I would say that all the data, all the information, all the opinions that were submitted to us initially are still being used to help guide our thinking, and so this is not that we didn't do a do-over. We're basically extended, and we are still, again, using the input that we received and the guidance that we received from the parents in our school community during this process. So I just want everyone to be clear that it just was a continuation, and that we are still on the same path. And I think that's important.
Point to make. Yes, we did a survey earlier on in the process, so we have that input. And again, now there's contact information for our current search consultant, Dr. Hardy. And I know many people have reached out to him with their thoughts, and he shared those comments with me, and people have reached out to me and other members of the board. So we do encourage the public to continue providing feedback. We definitely will listen to it, and we know everybody's had a lot of surveys, and we've had forums and other discussions, and so we decided not to do that again, because we did that at the beginning of this process and have some good information from the parents, but we'll continue to take input from people in the community. That's it. Pretty quickly. And I would just have personal thanks to all the board, because I know a lot of them have been involved, and this is the third or fourth search process in a row. So I do thank all the board for all their extra hours over the weekend, and we're still moving through, so a few more positions to fill. So thanks in advance again, and we'll get through it here in the next couple of weeks and get us a great candidate, a good pool to look to.
Right, with that, I'll move on to agenda F, update on the cafeteria HVAC gym project and the safety improvement. I think, Mike, that's you, right?
That is me, and I gave the update previously. I'm happy to give you a very abbreviated update again. We're on track. We're confident we're going to be we'll have everything complete as far as improving the indoor air quality of the gymnasium and the cafeteria, and we have the new chillers are up and running, so we're starting to cool the rest of the building, and we feel that all of the improvements that were included within the scope of the project will be completed on time, and our students and our school community, I feel, are going to be very happy with the results of the project. So again, I thank everyone involved, the committee, the staff, and our contractors who've been playing catch up here, as we had delays receiving the equipment. But again, I'm very confident and appreciative that we should be on track and ready to go for the start of school. So it's great.
Thank you. With that, I think we need to approve an invoice, right? Item G.
We need to consider approving an invoice, which the building committee did review a progress payment from Millennium Builders, who is our contractor, and the I would be happy to make the motion and then provide details if that's helpful. but the motion would be to move that the Region 9 Board of Education approve payment of invoice number 1110-1 from Millennium Builders in the amount of $396,000. So that's my motion.
I'll second that.
And just to detail a little further, that is a progress payment. As I noted, the two brand new chillers have been, the old chillers have been removed. The new chillers have been rigged into place. They have been piped with cast iron piping and welding and new controls, electric. The system's been filled. They've been tested and started up by the trained professionals. And so they're up and running now. We also have removed the older unit from the cafeteria has been removed, and the new curbing is up there ready to receive the new unit. And we have placed new structural steel on the gymnasium, again, ready for the new rooftop unit. The gymnasium is, the lower gym is completely painted. The ceiling is painted. All the ductwork, everything has been sprayed black. It looks beautiful. The walls have been painted. The doors have been painted. And the gym floor is 3/4 of the way sanded down, getting ready to be refinished with new logos, new decals, and a new floor finish. We're going to have new safety padding. Again, looking at student safety. The new bleachers for the balcony area, the upper area of the gym, will be installed next week. And I think that, you know, as I said, everything has been moving according to, you know, our schedule. And the request for the progress payment is less than half of the total project cost. And again, based on my rough estimation, we're probably 70% complete, you know, bordering 75% complete. So I think that this is a fair request, and I would recommend that the board strongly consider approving this payment.
Mike, I have a question. So with respect to this is within, since it's a progress payment, it's within the overall budget and scope, right?
Correct.
And then it's just, I guess there was a schedule of payments aligned with based on progress of work? Or
yes,
was it not that?
We didn't have necessarily a schedule of payments because we didn't, you know, we've been waiting on timing of units. I feel very strongly that the district should not pay for units until they're on site and up and running. So we're not paying for the rooftop units that are not in place yet. We're paying for the chillers, for all the work that's occurred, you know, up to this point. So there's not necessarily a schedule of payments, but this requested invoice reflects a very conservative estimation of the work that's been done to date.
Any other questions? That's okay. So hearing none or any further discussion, I'll call the vote to approve the motion as proposed and seconded. Todd?
Yes.
I'll vote yes. Mike?
Yes.
Gwen?
Yes.
Sarah? Karen?
Yes.
Mary Lee?
Yes.
Maureen?
Yes.
Okay, so moved and approved. And with that, item number 7, public comment. Just a reminder to the public, 2 minutes related to an item that's specifically on the agenda. And with that, I'll ask board members to see if there are any folks that would like to make a comment. if you could raise your hand. Oh, I see Dana Benson.
Yeah, just briefly, Dana Benson, 34 Pond Road, Easton. That's 34 Pond Road, Easton. I had a parent who was a healthcare professional who's concerned about masking, and asked the question of whether there was a policy regarding the refreshing of the masks on the children. And I'm asking this as a rhetorical question. I know this isn't a dialogue. Whether the children are, or whether there should be, or whether there is a state or federal guideline or state guideline for, in other words, changing and disposing of soiled masks, or distributing masks to the, I'm not sure exactly what the process is, whether the parents put the masks on the children or the school supplies the mask. But anyway, I just wanted to point out that that was a concern about the duration of time that the kids were wearing the masks, and wearing the same mask 3 or 4 days in a row could actually, at least in this person's thought process, possibly a way of transmitting rather than preventing the transmission. So I just wanted to offer that comment.
Are you talking about bigger kids or little kids?
Well, I'm talking about.
We're talking about high schoolers.
Well, she was talking about middle school and going into high school. Yeah.
I would
Yeah,
imagine.
Design board.
Yep. Yeah. I think rather than have a dialogue, I suggest that the comment be taken under advisement. And to Karen's point and Maureen's point, this is the board over the high school. So, and also if I, thank you, Mr. Benson, for your comment. If I could recommend to the extent that one is speaking on behalf of a parent, perhaps, they could also send a follow-up request to the administration with any specific questions and have that dialogue with the appropriate school administrator. But thank you for your comment. Are there any other comments from the public? If any other board members see anybody raising their hand, either virtually or via Zoom.
I see Mimi Jacob. Cheryl, I see Mimi Jacob.
Okay. Yeah, I'm trying to unmute. Let's see.
Hi, this is Mimi Jacob of 41 Morningside. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, I'm guessing not.
Yeah, maybe if you could state your, we could hear you. If you could state
Okay.
your address,
Sure.
your name and
Yep,
address.
Mimi Jacob, 41 Morningside Drive in Easton. I just want to say thank you all for getting school ready for the kids. I have 2 heading to Barlow. One's been there, one's heading. Super excited. Mass, it is what it is. They'll move on. Just wondering if there's thought about transitioning from the block periods to the traditional drop period or whatever it's usually called, where there's 6 periods a day versus the block. That's all. Thank you very much for all you guys are doing, and my kids are ready to go. Thank you.
Thank you, Mimi, for your comment. I think the scheduling that was addressed earlier on, and then to the extent that you have specific questions, feel free to send a note to the administrators. I see a note from Beth Nat's hand raised. Beth?
Oh, hi, how are you? I'm Beth Nat of, where am I? 220 Maple Road in Easton, Connecticut. Boy, it's been a long day. I just, first of all, wanted to say thank you once again for putting such care into your reopening plan. It sounds wonderful to me, both as a pediatrician and a parent. Also wanted to take the time to say that my daughter's first questions also was whether or not we were going to be going with the block schedule. I completely appreciate the need to split up the lunches as much as possible, but I will say, I think that a lot of the kids really do like the shorter periods, and hopefully as we get this under control, that's something we can move back to. And this isn't a complete solid plan for the full year like it was last year. And then also I'm very happy to hear we're going to extracurriculars. A lot of the kids who are involved with some of the activities are interested in things such as whether or not there's going to be the advisory blocks and things like that they've had in the past, and is that going to be moved in, kind of happening in terms of the normal schedule, or I guess what used to be like called a period X or something for activities, or if it's just going to be simply just the academics. Thank you very much, and thank you so much for your hard work this year.
Thank you so much for your comment. Any other questions or comments?
I don't see any.
Okay. Hearing or seeing no further hands raised, I'll move to item number 8, board member comment. Any members of the board have any comment? Todd?
First, thank you, Cheryl, for hosting the call this evening. I appreciate that. It was a long journey dropping off one of 2 college students for their first year at campus in the South. I appreciate you taking on hosting. I wasn't quite sure if I was going to make it back for my 4th school board call today. So I was working while traveling for the schools. Also, thank you, Mike, for hosting the 2 calls earlier. The subcommittees for building and facilities. I missed those 2, so I didn't quite get my 6 meetings in today. But thank you both for hosting the calls. I do appreciate it. And again, thank you to Dr. Warren, Dr. Pearson for all the work here for the summer, trying to get our schools back open, and especially Barlow and getting us up and running. And again, all the board members for all the meetings that you guys have been doing over the summer. Definitely appreciate it above and beyond what we normally do. And it's cut into a lot of people's vacations and other plans. So appreciate everybody's dedication. And again, a few more meetings to go in our long series here to help us get the last pieces in place. So appreciate it. Thank you.
Oh, Karen?
I'd just like to thank Dr. McMorran for stepping in such a busy time, such a busy year, and Dr. Pearson-Ugal for all the work she's done behind the scenes. And I think that people don't realize how many positions they've been filling literally every day, just trying to refill positions of the staff that have either left or retired, and all the reopening plans and everything else that's involved in all my fellow board members for all the meetings, and hopefully we'll be on the other end of this soon. Thank you.
Thank you, Karen. Mary Lee, you had your hand up.
I had to unmute myself. Yeah, yes, the same, thanks to what everybody's been doing. Our administrators haven't had a break at all. So that's got to be really trying. And we've had a lot of our board members who have been chairs of committee after committee after committee, and thank you. I also would love to see if we could, I'm so excited to hear from our Director of Technology and Digital Learning and see how she's working with Dr. Pearson-Ugal. So maybe in September, we can kind of get an update on what cool work is going on there. So thanks.
Any other comments? Mary Lee, I think that's a great idea. And I know we've been trying to work with Dr. Pearson-Ugal and the administrative staff at Barlow to figure out what to talk about the next curriculum committee meeting. I think that would be a great topic as well, to the extent that administration thinks it's appropriate to address some in curriculum or perhaps, and then also with the board. So that's a fantastic idea. And so look forward to that as well, and talking about curriculum too. And I want to thank really the staff, the Barlow staff. They're doing a lot of things behind the scenes, and Mrs. McTague and Mrs. Damaris in particular, Mr. Zudak from a facilities perspective, Vicki Cram in central office. There are a lot of unsung heroes across the Region 9 and central office, and Dr. Pearson-Ugal as well, for holding the fort. And thank you, Dr. McMorran, for leading the troops, if you will, under this transition. I personally look forward to rebuilding the leadership team and to supporting all of you in Region 9. So I do thank everybody for your effort. And Todd, you've done a fantastic job as chair, and I'm happy to back you up whenever you need it. So with that, any other, Mike? Go ahead, Mike.
Just because we're thanking people, I just think that it's important that we throw in Jackie Garvey, who's the administrative assistant to the head of school, and who has really gone above and beyond without a head of school there, trying to keep everything running, and Karen Bender as well. I think those are two key people that, you know, are there to support the leadership that we probably don't acknowledge enough or frequently enough. So I think it's important we mention them as well.
And with any other board member comment? Okay, with that, can I ask for a motion to adjourn?
So moved, Karen.
Second,
When?
Gwen? Okay, all in favor? Okay, thank everyone. Have a good evening.
Good night.
Good night.